Hey, Daniel. Now, you know I love being part of Dogwood Arts Festival, so I was at a local craft fair this past weekend, and it was amazing. So I saw everything from hand-poured candles to woodworking.
It's amazing how much talent is tucked away in our neighborhoods, isn't it?
It really, truly is. But I was talking to one of the vendors, and she makes these beautiful leather goods, which I'm always going to buy. And so she tells me that she's terrified of her own success.
Terrified? Why?
Well, she said, I love making the bags, but the money part of this business is an absolute mess. And I'm just using my personal checking account. So she has no idea if she's making a profit or she says she's dreading tax season because she hasn't tracked a single receipt.
That is the classic side hustle headache. We see it all the time. Someone starts a hobby because they love the craft, and then suddenly the business side of things starts to feel like a second, much more stressful job.
Well, and she said exactly that she was drowning in the logistics. So today, we're going to throw a life vest to all of our entrepreneurs and side hustlers. We're going to talk about how to move from hobbyist to business owner without losing your mind or your shirt.
This is Making Sense of Your Sense. I'm Daniel Hill.
And I'm your friend here doing this with Daniel again. I'm Shanna Browning. And we're continuing our May focus on growth and cleaning up your finances. So today, we're joined by our special friend, Chris, who has lived this transition firsthand.
Chris Rhodes and his wife are the founders of Hangar 37 Coffee. And if you spent any time in Tazewell, Maynardville, or even Harrogate now, you've probably seen and hopefully tasted his work. Chris, welcome to the show.
So thanks for having me, Daniel and Shanna. It's great to be here and talk about the grind of small business, and the pun is intended.
Well, we love the puns, and we sure love the coffee. But you didn't wake up with a fully scaled coffee roasting business. You started where exactly many of our listeners are starting, with a passion and a side hustle to do it.
Today, we're going to use Chris's story as a roadmap, as bumpy as it may be. We'll talk about the threshold of when you know it's time to get serious, the importance of the clean line between your money and the business's money, and how to build a foundation that can actually support your growth.
All right, Chris, as we were talking a little bit earlier, let's go back to the beginning. Hangar 37 didn't start in a commercial warehouse. Where'd you start?
Well, it started actually in the mountains of Ecuador. I met a coffee farmer because I thought I liked coffee, and I'd been a paramedic in a previous career, and so I'd always drank coffee just to stay awake, so forth and so on. But I did a tour of this guy's coffee farm, and when I tasted this truly great coffee, I decided wow, this is amazing. I've never had a coffee quite this good. So I asked some questions about it, specialty coffee and so forth. And after that, I decided I was like, I want to sell this in the States. I was like, I've never had coffee this amazing. And I said, so I started talking to him about that. And he's like, well, we can. It's going to be, here's the headaches of it, and here's some of the stuff. And I said, well, one day we're going to start selling your coffee. So about 6 years later, we started.
That's pretty cool. That's a great moment.
And that moment right there of deciding that's what I want to do, and people tasting the coffee and saying, can I buy a bag of that? What can you tell us about that moment?
So for me, it was once I had introduced, because a lot of people had been so used to their typical chain restaurants or gas station coffee or instant or whatever, the stuff you make at home. Well, they were always they talk about how it hit their stomach. I can't drink coffee anymore, and so forth and so on. So I was talking to them about some of these higher quality coffees and the specialty coffee. And how it doesn't hit your stomach as hard, how it won't have the jitters and the acidity and stuff like that, and the different flavor profiles. And so after I even do some samples for some colleagues and friends, and after they're like, holy cow, this is amazing. And that's kind of what it started with. And then they're like, so they try that and they're like, wow, hey, where do I get it? So I reached out to the same gentleman and bought the first shipment of coffee from him, and then we just kept going from there. And then we'd start bagging it up and then sharing it with colleagues and things like that.
So the $15 here and there, it essentially felt like initially extra play, not play money, but just extra side money. once you started selling more bags, it went from 10 bags to 20 bags, and now you're spending hundreds of dollars in raw beans and packaging and equipment. That's when the moment kind of felt a little more dangerous, right?
Certainly. So for us, it was, the first few things like, we'll buy a little here, buy a little there, and you'll slowly just start scaling. Well, then once it started selling, and in a day we did, more business than I'd done in a week, and I'm like, holy cow! And now we're out. Now I got to start ordering more, and start trying to scale a little bit, and not having a background in that, you're learning really fast. It kind of transitions from that hobby to more of a business, and then of course that creates its own little issues. But
that's right. That's exactly right. So that's when I think I hear you say you realized it's not a hobby anymore. We're at a business. So then when you realize you've got to order more, you got to get organized, what was the first logistical step that you took?
Well, besides trying to order stuff like that, is knowing where your money is, like, okay, how am I going to afford this? How much money am I spending? Where do I get this? And especially if I'm going to start ordering out a week or 2 weeks worth of, or further out 3 or 4 weeks, depending on what I need. So it's like, okay, well, how much am I making? Number one.
That's right. How much am I making? So at that point, I think you probably look at who can help me, right? And so if you're going to the bank, are you using at this point, are you still using your personal account?
Yes.
Okay.
And personal credit cards and whatever else you had to do to try to like, because that's, initially, like, we weren't even a business. And I went and I did the paperwork initially, and then I'm like, okay, I filed my LLC. I think I need that. And then I was like, okay, we need to get control of our finances, because obviously I'm like, well, what's personal, what's not? And then you're hearing about, these different things with LLCs and piercing veils and all these other things. I'm like, and it's kind of overwhelming, especially starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the thought that you just liked coffee from Ecuador. And here you are.
That's exactly it.
And here you are. So
at what point did you realize this is getting big? I need to take some different steps. And what did you do?
So initially, after that first part of like, filing initial paperwork, then I went to my local bank and opened up a business, like a checking account, and said, what do I need? Because there again, I came here First Century, and I was like, hey, what paperwork do I need? And they're like, here's the list, here's what you need, and I had most of that in order, so I was able to go, and I think it was within the same day or the next day, I was able to have a business checking account.
That's great.
And, as a banker, this is where I really just want to stand up and cheer, woohoo! That's the clean line that we always talk about. We want that to be your defining moment of, okay, now I'm not just in a hobby. I'm not just in a side hustle. This is real. And it gives you that opportunity to your point, to realize, okay, this is how much money I've got. This is what I can do. And it also shows you your growth. It really is a huge, huge game changer.
Oh yeah, definitely. It removed a lot of the mental load that I had. So initially, like if I was buying bags of beans or cups or whatever I might be using, I can go and I can look at one source, one statement, and it's all there, versus trying to go, okay, what's on this account, what's on this credit card over here, and what have you. And so it just makes it a whole lot easier. It's a lot less stressful, and because entrepreneurship is stressful. So,
well, we talked about one of our episodes about tax time too, which I think for you becomes an issue too. Are you drinking a lot of coffee during tax time?
Oh yeah.
I can imagine. So instead of that, having to separate it out, now it's separated out for you. And I think from a banking perspective, we're grateful that we can at least give you some peace of mind about that.
And it's not just about the taxes either. It really is about liability. If you're running a business or, and to that point, even a side hustle, out of your personal account, you're commingling funds. If someone ever had legal issue, somebody choked on a coffee bean or something, that lack of a clear line could potentially put not just your business, but your personal assets at risk. And so a separate account is like a protective firewall for your family.
Exactly. That's part of what changed my mindset as far as when I'd heard about some of those risks. And I was like, of course, I'm like, I didn't understand any of that. That's not my background. But once I did the business account and saw that, I could, have a balance growing over here, and I could see where I was going with, growing the business. And it's not just like, okay, where's this money? Because of course, a lot of times with me, if I have money, I'm going to spend it. So
you and everybody else, Chris, you're good.
But instead of taking money from my family, or then I can see what the business is doing, and then I can then say, okay, we can invest in this, or we can invest in that, or okay, maybe we need to hold off for a little while versus, so I'm not robbing Peter to pay Paul all the time.
Hey everyone, Daniel Hill here with a quick question for you. Is your most sensitive financial information sitting in an unsecured metal box on the street right now? Paper statements are one of the primary targets for identity thieves and mail fraud. When you make the switch to e-statements, you're moving your data out of the mailbox and into our high-security digital vault. It's significantly safer, and it's a whole lot faster. You'll get an email the second your statement is ready without having to wait days for the mail carrier to arrive at your house. Plus, you can finally say goodbye to those shoeboxes of paper and filing cabinets taking up space. We keep your statements archived and accessible right in the app whenever you need them. Whether you're hunting for a record during tax season or providing documentation for a new loan. It takes less than 2 minutes to enroll through our mobile app or online banking portal. Protect your identity, clear the clutter, and take control of your records today. Now, let's get back to the show.
That's a great analogy. And as a banker, I'm so grateful that you felt comfortable having that conversation with us. And so once you get those accounts settled, so now how do you handle the the side of it? So Hangar 37, you're a local store, just opened a new one, and so you have a very dedicated following. So as you're growing, how do you realize it's that time to grow? What was that pivotal moment for you?
Well, my goal is, honestly, I'll go ahead and give you a little inside information. Once we had 37 on the Hangar, we decided, hey, I think that's a good number. That's how many locations I want to have. And I was like, I'm pretty simple. So that's, but as far as scaling, once we had the one space that, the commercial space that we leased, we sat down and we looked at cash flow and things like that. And obviously we looked at over the last 6 months and even the last year. And that's when I was like, okay, there's opportunity for growth. You can see profit margins, you can see, a lot of your trends, and you can kind of start to really understand how the business works, and it's its own entity. So
that's great.
And, working closely with your local community banker, and, we did an episode here a couple weeks ago about being rooted in community and how we, as your banker, we're in the same community. We live here, we work here, we play here. We can have a common sense partnership with you. We don't want to just give you a loan.
Right.
We want to see your business thrive as much as you do. Personally, I'm in your shop once or twice a week.
Yep. Rookie numbers, you got to bump them up.
I know. We need to get up to about 7 days a week.
But what you're saying there is absolutely, it's such a huge part of the community. We see a lot of, we get people on their first name basis. Sometimes it's a first drink basis, but like first name basis, we're to learn about their children. And even from the bank standpoint, it's like, I don't think it's just like a loan, with some national banks and things like that, where you're just numbers. That's one thing I like about the smaller banks. Is you're a person. You get to know the person. You're not just a number on a screen. And it's not just a loan. It's sometimes an investment in your community. And it's investing in my family. It's investing in we've got several staff now. I think we're up to 20-something folks. So it's like those are jobs opportunity that all of us working together in a community all support. So customers are part of the community. We wouldn't be here without our customers or our community. So
I love every piece of this. I love every bit of it. So let's switch it just for a second. So you've decided you've liked coffee from Ecuador. You want to bring it over here. You give to your colleagues and your friends, and you started this business that is growing, which is exactly what we're excited about. We want to see happen. So what advice do you have for the person who's either roasting coffee or making sewing bags on their dining room table?
Don't be afraid to just do it. Don't overthink it. Overthinking will cause you to just keep overthinking, and that's all you'll do, and it'll be a regret that you wish you had done, and then you didn't do it. Sometimes it's just taking that leap. I mean, you got to have a little bit of faith, believe in yourself, and just do it.
I love that. I love that.
You know, Chris, your story is so relatable. It's so rooted in our community. And we get a lot of questions at our branches from people who are just like you were not long ago.
And one of the big ones we really hear is what you just talked about. Do I need an LLC? What does that look like? Is that incorporated? Is it LLC, sole proprietor? There's so many. Or what's that formal business structures that we see who just want to sell their items?
You know, that's a great question. Now, you can technically operate as a sole proprietor using your Social Security number. We almost always recommend looking into an LLC. It's relatively inexpensive to set up in Tennessee. There may be some hoops that you have to jump through and this, that, or the other, but it does provide that legal corporate veil that protects your home and your personal savings from business debts or lawsuits.
And so I think another one we get is taxes that you've learned from business growing, I'm guessing, too. So how much do you recommend, or how much have you learned that you just kind of set aside for a side hustle?
Well, I learned this one the hard way. So it's,
don't we all?
I still learn at times, but
we've had that
still learning.
conversation. Yeah. We've had that conversation.
You know, I think the general rule of thumb is to set aside 25 to 30% of your net profit, not your total sales, but what's left after your expenses. If you put that into a separate savings account every single time you get paid, you know, April 15th just becomes another day instead of financial catastrophe.
All right, Chris, I got another one for you. So your wife, Tiffany, is in this business with you. You all have children. So how are you balancing a full-time job as a business owner, but you're still learning to grow your business? And how are you planning on doing that without just burning out? Because you want to have 37 locations, 35 more at this point.
So lots of coffee. But no, you got to have boundaries.
Sure.
There's times when it's super stressful. You're going to pull all-nighters and things like that. That could absolutely be a reality. But knowing set aside time. And that's the biggest thing. You got to make sure that you take care of yourself and your family, and whatever that might mean. Because if for me, I'll get into that work zone and just keep working. And then I remember when I first was starting, I was losing weight and I wasn't eating like I should. And those are real things. Like someone's like, "Hey, you need to just take it. It'll be okay." And having that voice, like my wife, she does probably more work than I do on the backside. Especially, you might see her face more than you see mine. But she was just there, like, "Hey, make sure here's some food. Make sure you eat. Make sure hey, why don't you you can wait till tomorrow on some things. So just make sure you take time for yourself. And if you have to, schedule. If
Yep.
For me, I was like, I'm not always the best for planning. I'm more of shoot from the hip. But having planning is a good thing. And laying out, and even if it's just time slots, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes now, or I'm going to take an hour, or I'm going to take a day, and taking that day of a rest with your family is immensely
Absolutely
important.
It's a great mental break more than anything. Physical, yes, but mental for sure.
And I've heard people say this too, that if you don't schedule your rest, your business will eventually schedule it for you in the form of burnout.
Yep.
That's right.
And this has been just powerful conversation. And Chris, we thank you for being so transparent about the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. But let's wrap this up with our actionable tip for this week.
All right, your tip for this week is to draw the clean line.
If you have any money coming in from a side project, whether it's from mowing lawns or selling crafts or consulting, stop using your personal checking account for it today.
And sometime this week, come into any of our branches, if you're local here with us, or wherever you're banking, wherever you're hearing us, and talk to a relationship banker. Tell them you have a side job, you're making some extra money, and you want to open a dedicated account for it.
You don't need a complicated, complex business account just yet. Sometimes a separate, simple checking account is the perfect starting point. The goal there is to have a dedicated debit card and a dedicated statement.
It'll change the way you see your business for sure. It kind of turns it from extra cash into capital.
And there it is right there. Extra cash from something that you loved became capital and a full-time job for you. Chris, you're amazing. Thank you for joining us. And where can we find you? Where's Hangar 37?
We have the one location in New Tazewell is 925 Main Street, and we have one in Harrogate, Tennessee at 116 Nettleton Road.
I love it.
You can tell that's a new location because he's having to think about the address.
It's right across from LMU, so it's there.
And people can find you online too at hangar37coffee.com.
That, or I mean, honestly, the social media is the easiest way to contact us on a lot of ways. Is Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok, any of those things. I mean, it's trying to it's amazing how many people you reach that way. So
that's a side business all of its own.
Yes.
Within a business.
Well, what we'll do, Chris, is we will put your links in our show notes. That way the listeners can find you on social media and follow you and see what all you've got going on and
awesome.
And the progress you're making. And if you get a chance, stop by and taste some of that coffee from Ecuador. And, I know it will change your life just like it changed Chris's life.
And Daniel going in there all the time.
I know. I need to up my game on that.
You do. You got called out.
Next week, we're moving from the roastery to the digital wallet.
That's a big jump.
We're going to talk about P2P mastery. We'll show you how to use Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App to buy your coffee without getting scammed.
And we always talk about it's using all of those, but having safety in the digital age. So please subscribe so you don't miss it.
For Shanna Browning and our guest, Chris Rhodes,
Yay,
I'm Daniel
Chris.
Hill. Now, go out and make some sense of your sense.
And buy coffee.
Yes.
Stay caffeinated.